Welcome to our December webinar. Today's webinar is going to be on custom widgets, and we do have two guests here with us today. We'll just jump in and get started. We have an extra special webinar today. Our CTO, Paul, and our software engineer, Jarek, he's on his way, are here to walk us through how to create your own custom widget in Grist. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them as we go along. Anything I don't know the answer to, we will do Q&A at the end if we have time. And then any questions that don't get answered, we will make sure we get answers to our community forum. But with that, I will turn it over to Paul to get started.
Thanks, Natalie. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to meet you all. So I'm Paul. I'm the CTO at Grist. And today I'm talking about custom widgets. It's a feature a lot of people like about Grist. It's a way of extending it to do weird and wonderful things and to take advantage of other extensions other people are doing for weird and wonderful things. But let's just get started and get clear on like what actually is a widget in Grist. So the Grist UI, most of you, I assume, are familiar with it. You have pages, and on the pages, you have areas, rectangular areas that may have tables in them or cards. Those areas, we call them widgets. They're the areas in Grist that let you view and edit data. And I see my colleague Jarek has just joined. He'll be giving live demos of all this later. Okay, so those are widgets. So what's a custom widget? Well, there's a lot of different types of widgets. You are probably familiar with table views, cards, lists of cards, forms. So there are very general ways of editing and viewing data, like tables. That's why people are interested in spreadsheets like Grist. And that works for a lot of things. Sometimes you need to get more specific, like calendars are a way to view and edit data that works well for, time of the year. And then sometimes you need to get very specific, and that's what this talk is about. When you make custom widgets, you have some use case that nobody has thought about before, something very specific in your factory that needs to be laid out in a particular way. That's where custom widgets come in handy. And do feel free to post a question if you have a question at any time. And then we'll also do a Q&A at the end. One other thing I wanted to say here for widgets, for all these areas in Grist where you can edit and view data, you can choose how you're going to be viewing the data, how you're going to edit it, and also that's the select widget part. And then there's the select data part. Natalie, do people see my cursor, my mouse?
No, I just see the screen.
Okay, so be careful to say it out loud. Then there's this select data part, which is like which table or which summary do you want to be showing to actually view and edit with the widget. That'll be important later, that separation of data and how things are visualized. Okay, so a Grist document, you edit and view it using widgets. Like there's a list of table widget 1, table widget 2. You've all built documents like this. And then if you need something different, you can add a custom widget. Custom widget interacts with the document just like other widgets as far as Grist is concerned. But it can use external code that's not part of the Grist application. And those custom widgets, the code they use is just HTML, JavaScript, CSS, basically the language of the web. So if you're a web developer or know a web developer or hire a web developer, then you can make a new kind of view, a new kind of way of editing data in Grist fairly cheaply and easily without needing any like high-powered team of engineers doing code reviews and meeting quality standards. You can go as deep as you want, but you can start up with something that works just for you. Okay. So as soon as you talk about using, like plugging in some external code into your document, we do need to talk a little bit about security. So custom widgets, they plug in just like other widgets, but there's a little bit of gating between them and the document. This is the widget access level. So basically, when you add one of these widgets and it is using external HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can choose to grant it no access to your document, in which case, like no data from your document will be shared with it. That's useful for like tutorials or manuals that you just want to sit side by side with your document. Or you can grant it read access to the kind of data that Grist would deliver in that widget. So then that area will be able to read the linked filtered data that that widget would receive. Or you can grant full document access where you trust it completely. And we're careful about serving such widgets from distinct domains to avoid vulnerabilities. Okay, so from the perspective of someone who's actually making a custom widget, if you've done any web development, this should be fairly accessible to you. And Jarek is going to be giving like a practical example of this very soon. I see a question from Sao about whether we can make an API call from the custom widget. Yes, you can. It has a special API of its own, which I'm actually going to talk about on this page. But you can also, if you want to make regular REST API calls, you can basically request a token and then use that token to make API calls. There are nuances there. Let me get through this first bit. So the basic interface between a widget, a custom widget, and the rest of the Grist document is via message passing. So your new editor, your new viewer is going to sit in an iframe. I'm using the language of the web. And then it's going to communicate with the rest of Grist through message passing through iframe post messages. That's basically all there is to it. We provide a convenience library, the Grist plugin API.js library, and that gives you a Grist object with methods you can call on it. One of the methods you can call, for example, is the onRecord method, which lets you add a callback, which will be called every time the record that you should be showing changes. So here's like this is a complete custom widget that you could write and use in your Grist document today. It has regular boilerplate for HTML files. It uses the script tag to pull in the Grist convenience library. And then it makes a single element called readout and has a little bit of code that tells Grist now it's ready to communicate, and that when Grist wants to link a certain record, then you should call this piece of code back, and it's going to take that record and just show it in the element we prepared. Okay, talking about that isn't much good, so I'm going to hand over to Jarek to go through a demo.
So the widget that we will create currently will be very simple. We will create a widget that allows us to choose a color in a hex code and store the value in this column. Because Grist doesn't have a color selector widget, we will just try to create it. We will use for it another custom widget that was recently published, which is called Custom Widget Builder. So this widget allows us to build a custom widget inside Grist and also host it inside the document. So it is a huge time saver and a help for anyone who wants to create a custom widget. because a couple of months ago, in order to create a custom widget, the biggest obstacle you had was to actually where to host it. And now you can just build and host it in your custom widget inside the document. So the widget is called Custom Widget Builder. I will just add it to this page. And as you can see, I should have chosen this table, which is called colors, as a table that the widget is backed by. So every widget, as Paul said, has a data connected to it, like our native widgets, like grid view, and also a custom widget has access to the data that is already prepared for you, filtered and sorted. Okay, so the custom widget builder is very simple. It has literally only one button in the creator panel to open the configuration. And it shows you a very simple editor where you can paste your HTML code or JavaScript code. So as you can see, this is very, very simple page. It has only script tag that includes the plugin API and JavaScript code that will be appended in the final widget in the end of the body tag. So we can hit a preview to see how it looks like. And to go back to editing, we need to press the open configuration once again. Okay, so let's start. First, what we will do, we will remove this content, and we'll just create a simple input tag to choose a color. And we'll make it add it. I have a helper here. Okay, so this is just a simple tag for choosing a color. Nothing fancy about it. It's just a plain HTML. Now what we want is to subscribe to an event when the color is changed and put the color that user selected into this row that is also selected in the left table. So how to do it? First, we need to call the ready message as Paul said, and request full access to a document. So we can do it passing by calling the ready method and passing the appropriate access level. They are called basically the same way as you can see here, only the first name I think is needed. In order to have a full access, you just need to pass full. And when we hit the preview to see how it looks like, you can see that the Grist already received the ready message and is suggesting us, telling us that actually this widget wants to have a full access. So we can just approve. We need to add a full access to this widget in order to save the data. So by default, all widgets when widget has no access to a document, it actually can't read any data. In read selected table, it can only read the data that is selected by the widget and it's filtered by the user. And in full document access, it has the access to the underlying data, but also can do everything what user can do. So this access levels is needed to actually change something in Grist. So that's why we choose full. And then we'll subscribe to the on-record event. So this event is triggered by Grist every time a cursor is changed in the underlying table. Because we have this custom widget and we don't have a notion of cursor here, we are linking this widget to this widget. So every time the cursor is changed here, the row index is changed here, also that cursor will be changed here. This is like a normal linking widget that we have in Grist. It is configured in the created panel in the data section. So as you can see, this widget, this section is selected by the other section. So now we can react. Whenever the record is changed, we will read the value of the column of this column. We'll first change it to be something more friendlier. So we'll read it, store it in the variable. And then we will set this value that we read inside the input tag. But first we need to, of course, have a reference to the input tag. We'll just use a very simple way to grab it. I probably had a different, we'll change the ID tag so it's easier and shorter. Okay, so now we have a reference to the input element, and we can just say input value equals value from the row. And now every time we change the cursor, the custom widget should react and change the color. So as you can see, it works. The color selector is reacting to the index selector in cursor change in the left panel, left section, and is reading the value from the selected row and setting the value. So now we want to do a call back to Grist to actually change the color. So we are going back to the widget. And please remember, every time you're actually using the editor, you need to save, because the widget doesn't have like temporary storage. So if I were to actually refresh the page without saving, everything will be lost. Okay, so now every time we need to subscribe to an event when the user changes the color. So to do that, we are just using vanilla JavaScript, and the value I think is change. So every time the input element changes, we will grab the value from the selector, store it into the variable called selected color, and then call Grist and change the value. So in order to do that, first we need to have the ID of a row that we want to change. We can get the ID of the row that we want to change by storing it somewhere during handling of this event. So let's define a place where we can save it. We'll save it in this variable, and we'll just say here row ID equals record ID. And now we have everything we need in order to change this color. And there is Grist exposes the very nice method in this Grist object that we showed you previously. It is called Grist selected table app. And as you can see, the IntelliSense has the latest taping. So if you are familiar with TypeScript, you can take the advantage of this and just see what actually the parameters are. So in order to make the update request, you need to pass the ID of the record you want to update. We have this ID in this variable, and fields that you want to update. So we want to update color column with the value from the selected, from the input element that we have defined. And I think that's it. So check if that works. And it doesn't. You can just we'll go to the developer console to see if something is. Oh, so as you can see, I have made a mistake. I didn't make the method async. So let's change this. Okay. Now, once again, we're storing a red value, and that worked. So as you can see, the color was changed. Let's go and change the white to be like something more blue, and that also works. And as I said previously, remember to save your work. Okay, and now I will show you how to leverage the onRecords event to show all the colors that are currently selected in defined in the table. So to every time actually the anything in the table, underlying table is changed, the Grist will call this method and pass all the rows as a parameter. So this variable, this argument actually is a list of all the records that are in the table, of course already filtered and sorted by the user. So every time anything changes, we will get all the rows from the table, and we will generate a couple of elements inside a div tag. And we'll just create a little box that will have the color defined by the user inside this div. So first we need to grab this element the same way. Okay, my query selector. Okay, and now. And whenever table is changes, and it will change, we will first clear this element using but just by replacing the inner HTML property. And now for every row in a table, we will create a div element. We will set the content of it to a color value, just to make sure that we can read the value of the column, and set the background. Background and we will append it to the list element at the end. Okay, and I think that's it. We also need a little bit style, or just set a height of this element, because by default it will have a 0 height, so we will even won't be able to see it. Okay, and I think that's it. You should be able to now see all the rows that are actually defined. Let's see if that actually works. Let's add some color by hand, and as you can see, that works. Okay, and any questions for so far? I don't think so.
There was
a question.
one. Oh, sorry. This one was, can we access all of the other tables? Like if you can talk about the data that you can access through the custom widget.
Yes, we can, but it is not reactive. So there is no way to like subscribe to changes to any other table. So you can just grab it, like you can treat all the tables just like a database and just read them on demand. Grist won't inform you that something is changed or like columns were removed or any other tables were added. So you can definitely query it, but you don't have this nice mechanism of subscribing for events. And of course, in order to read other tables, you need to have full access to the document. There is a helper method exposed in the doc API object, which I think is fetch table. And here you just pass the table ID and you will get all the records. Okay, and next thing that I want you to show you is how to actually do a column mapping. Maybe, Paul, do you want to first describe the column mapping and we can go back to the demo?
Yeah, we can do that. There were two more questions that came in. One of them was asking, can we change the color of the cell itself depending on the color chosen?
No, that's not possible at this moment.
Yeah, there's conditional formatting, but it's not going to help you do that. Then the other question was, I think Celine was responding to this idea of looking up other tables, suggesting that we could have a lookup in the table itself. I think this may be like if there was information you wanted to pull in, you could make an extra column, do the lookup there. Any data there would be passed on to the custom widget. So that is a way to get reactive information from another source.
Exactly.
Okay, so I will go on with the slideshow and then come back to you, Jarek.
Okay.
So I think, okay. Great. Right, so Jarek just walked through making a custom widget, a concrete custom widget, looking both at viewing data and editing it. When you make a widget, typically there are levels of how intense you can get about it. Level 1 is something rough and ready that works for you and your team. And that's often, good enough. You have a problem, you solve it, and then you're done. And you don't have to polish it particularly. And custom widgets work quite well for that. A lot of people can set them up just talking to ChatGPT. But then you can go beyond that. If you go a little further, Grist gives you convenient ways to wrap up your widget and make it usable by others. So one thing I'm going to look at for level 2 of widgetness is making column mapping options. And as soon as you do that, it becomes significantly easier for someone to take your custom widget and apply it to their own document, where tables may be called different things, columns might be called different things. Level 3, so once you've got column mappings, that's the point where a widget really becomes practically usable by others. And again, that's often enough. We share and recommend widgets at about this level. But if you've got a widget that's going to be used by a lot of people, then you need to start thinking about, okay, you're starting to be a web developer. You need to think about what if they're viewing it on mobile? What if it's tablet? What if it's desktop? Okay, you start to get it more into classic web development issues. And then level 4 is when your widget becomes effectively indistinguishable from native Grist widgets, where you get to like app level of professionalism, where you support dark mode, for example, support localization, support undo, redo. And in fact, the calendar widget in Grist is implemented this way. It was implemented as a custom widget, and It was just polished to the point where it effectively looks like it's native. Okay, so it is doable. You can go all these levels of intenseness and make your widget usable by the world. Okay, so column mapping. So level 2, just when you're going beyond rough and ready and someone else says, hey, that's cool, can I use it? Then the first thing to think about is setting up a way for them to map columns. So a custom widget can declare the inputs that it expects. So for example, if I have a custom widget that's doing flashcards, showing you questions, you pick some answers, then you might want to have someone plug that into their table and specify, okay, which column is giving me the question, which column is giving me the answers. So that's exactly what column mappings will do. And once you've done that, another user can use your custom widget and just hook it up to their table.
So let's now do some leverage this column mapping API. So because currently what you can see, how you can see that we hard-coded in this widget the color column. So it means that this widget will only work if someone actually uses a color for his column name. And the best way to do this is to just let the user actually choose which column he wants to use. So in order to do that, we can pass the information from the custom widget to Grist that we expect some columns from user, and we expect the user to actually choose which column he wants to use. To do that, there is another parameter in the ready call called columns, and it accepts at least a list of strings, which are names of the columns we expect. So we now expect column color. And that's it about the configuration. This is literally everything you need to specify in order to Grist to detect it. And I have some problem here. Oh. So as you can see now, Grist detected that the custom widget needs some columns, and though this column was not optional, because there is also a way to specify that some columns are optional or not. If the column is not optional, Grist will actually unload your widget and present a user with a nice UI to actually choose which columns to map. And without this configuration, your widget won't be even rendered. So we will choose a single column that we currently have, which has the same name, which is color. And now widget is rendered back again. But together with the record event here, we also have received another parameter called mappings, which is just a map of the column names that were chosen by user. So we'll store the name of the column that user has chosen in the just another variable. And here the first line will be equals mapping. Let's see that it works. Nothing is broken yet. Okay, and now we know what is the column name, so we just need to use it to actually get the data from the record and use it to actually save the data back into the Grist in the update parameter. And I think that's it. We also hard-coded the column name in the onRecords event. So we'll also use the same way to get the data. And that's it. Now we have proper configuration of mapped columns. I'll just double check. Yes. No, something is still broken. Column. So we need to once again look at the which is strange. I will just check my okay. To be honest, I don't know what's here. Okay. Let me just double check. I will show you maybe an example that has it already done, which is actually doing the same thing. So as you can see, I'm now storing the name of the column and using this name the same way as in the other example. And also when the we are using column name here, and when we are also creating the list. Okay, so that's all. So I will show you how this example works. So if I will change the column name here, it should still be able to change the column back. So that works. These elements are not checked because we still have this one element hard-coded. So let's fix that, and that's now it works. And if your widget is actually only reading table, you are not updating anything, Grist offers a very helper method that can do the mapping for you. So basically treat all the data that comes from the API as already mapped. And it has a method exposing the global Grist object called map column names. And you can pass the record here, and now you will have just a record that all the properties are already mapped as you expect. But this only works for reading because there is currently we don't yet have a way to map them back and save it to the in Grist. But most of the widgets that actually people are creating are only for viewing, so this is a helper that can be very easily used. And I think that's all for the demo. So,
thank you, Jarek. So we saw column mappings in action. Another thing we saw earlier that I did want to point out, because it's useful sometimes, is that custom widgets can have their own configuration that's saved in the document. So for example, you can have a custom widget that might have some options in it, or something you want to save and have that little area know about the next time you load it. You can do that. There's a little API for saving and loading such settings. And it's kind of like if you do web development, it's like local storage on a web page. And this was actually used by the Custom Widget Builder that Jarek's been using to store all that HTML and JavaScript. That's why he's working just within a Grist document and not needing to put HTML and JavaScript somewhere else on the web, which is actually how custom widgets normally work. Okay, I said a lot of things there. Just know if you're making a custom widget and you need to save a little bit of configuration with your document, there's an API for that. For example, there's a custom widget that can print labels, and you can choose like how many labels and something about the layout. That's the kind of setting that can be saved and stored with your document. So next time you come back in, it still has those same preferences. Okay. Another little known fact about custom widgets, we've seen how you can use them as any widget, as you can link them to other widgets. So when you're clicking around in like a table, you're receiving the records that you're pointing to in that table. You can actually go the other way around. You can have a custom widget that acts as a source that can drive other views, other widgets. So there's an API you can call grist.setCursorPause, and then you'll be able to make a link from that custom widget back in the other direction, which can be useful in some cases. I haven't seen many people use this, which is kind of why I'm talking about it. So one thing we have that's relatively new is the custom widget gallery. This is a listing on a Grist installation or on our SaaS of all the custom widgets that the owner of that installation has decided to make available to users. So on our SaaS, the default listing, there's a lot of things in there. Some of them are developed by us, some of them are developed by others. Some of them are developed by us, but as individual developers like Jarek himself. Jarek, did you want to go through this list?
Well, we can at the end. Or now if you want.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah, we prefer
at the end.
at the end, okay. Yeah, some of you may have presumably have already seen this list. The one thing I did want to point out is that some of them are marked as community widgets, and they're marked with a developer, and that's basically widgets that have been developed not by Grist Labs ourselves, but by someone else like Jacques Perron, who's made a lot of very good widgets. And these may not necessarily be professional level. They may not support dark mode. They may not do like everything, but they're still very useful. So we wanted a way to be able to share custom widgets earlier, which is why we now have this community badge. Okay. Okay, so just to review, we've talked a lot. The initial motivation for custom widgets is just this dream that we've got the spreadsheet. It's pretty good about sorting, linking, filtering data, and getting it to a set of related views. And then what if you could make your own viewer and editor to view something the way you wanted, to edit it the way you like, and have that plug into Grist. So you don't have to like figure out authentications and users and logins. You don't have to replicate everything that's already in Grist. You can just use Grist and fit in with it, as opposed to trying to put Grist within some larger thing. And that's basically what custom widgets are and have been. And it's always a pleasure to see some strange use case that people have. Like this was one of the early uses of the custom widget. Someone had racks of samples that they were making laid out in a grid and needed to enter that data quickly into something like a spreadsheet or a database, and custom widgets made that easy for them. And no spreadsheet is going to have everything built in. So this is exactly what leads people to custom widgets. So it's all about making the barrier to entry low, and then giving a path to sharing, where you can basically invest as much as you want that makes sense for you, to basically share with the community. Okay, and that's actually all I had to say. So Jarek, if you wanted to just walk through the list of custom widgets and pull out the ones that you think deserve attention, and then I think it'll be Q&A.
Also, in the slide, there is a link to this example document that lists all the main widgets that I think are mostly used by our users, and all the widgets are already pre-configured, so you don't need to spend time figuring out how they work. So I think the most useful widget we have is the Markdown widget. It is like in the scale that Paul presented, like level 4. It supports dark mode and works pretty well. I think it even supports undo and redo. So as you can see, it reacts to the element that is chosen, has a very basic, a simple UI just for pressing the, you just need to press the edit button to have a working editor, change something, press save, and as you can see, it was already saved. Very similar to that is a notepad editor, which is basically the same thing as the Markdown, but just offers you a rich text editing experience. And it also allows you to paste images. For example, let me just try to see if that works here. As you can see, that works. Of course, the images are saved inside the content, so they are not uploaded anywhere, they are just literally inside the text. So you need to be careful not to paste large content in your into your data, into your spreadsheet. And they are not compressed, so you need to be careful, but that works. There is a calendar widget that Paul previously mentioned. It is also allowed in the gallery and in the Add Widget to Page menu. So as Paul said, this is like a true custom widget, which is polished. It supports dark mode, localization, undo, redo, and all the API that actually we expose. So and it's also like the source code is there in the GitHub repository, and it is a very good starting point if you want to create like full, like native almost widgets for Grist. Next widget that is very nice is a map widget. It's a very simple widget to show you that can visualize the set of points with latitude and longitude on a map. It actually supports configuration. So somewhere here there should be a configuration. I think here. And this widget is also available in the source as a source code, and it actually shows you how to you can use the option API to store some configuration in the widget. I think this and the labels are the only widgets that actually have some configuration. So this is a good reference how to do it. There is a custom URL widget. Then that is just a custom URL. So every widget can, you don't actually need to use a widget from the gallery. You can just paste any URL to a different page, and if the page allows you to actually view inside an iframe, it will be rendered. So as you can see here, I'm rendering Grist page inside a Grist page, which actually has a custom widget somewhere here. Next is the builder widget that I already shown you. You can actually paste the source code of every custom widget we have inside the builder, and it should work, except of the builder itself. So you can't nest builder in builder. And there are some widgets to show HTML, which is very simple but very useful because you can create the content inside your Grist document using Python formulas and just render them. And there is image viewer and video applier widgets that are also very nice. So in the middle, I have a video player that actually can show images and play videos. And on the right side, there is just an image viewer, so it can render videos. There is a label printer widget, which is also using Options API. So you can use it to check it how it is actually done and use it in your own widgets. And last two widgets that I want to show you is the invoice widget. This widget is very interesting because it is getting data from other tables, not only the table that is selected in this widget. And this is actually reacting to the changes in other tables by using our function, Python function called record, that allows you to expand any connected records referenced in the current row as a JSON object. So the invoice widget can actually see the data in the other tables and react to changes to it. And there is a QR widget, which was created by our user Jacques Perron. And we also have another community widget that renders diagrams based on the markup language using the Premade library. And we have two very advanced widgets. One that is called Advanced Chart, which uses the whole Plotly Studio library to create very sophisticated charts. So you can use it if the charts that Grist offers are not enough. And a Jupyter notebook that just embeds Python inside web browser. So you can connect this widget to your data and do some analysis. And I think that's it. And of course, all those widgets are available in the gallery. I will just show you once again the gallery. So all those widgets are basically here.
Great.
Okay, I think that's it.
Thanks, Jarek. There was one question. So I was asking, can we add new rows from the custom widget? Yes, you can. There's an API call for that. You can make changes to the table. You can add rows, delete rows, update rows, all the usual. Alexis was saying they made a test for a button widget from toddle.dev and it seems to work well. It's great to hear. Thanks, Peggy. We're excited about all these. Excited for new widgets, custom widgets. They pop up all the time. We were at the Grist Summit in Paris recently. Myself and Jarek doing basically this talk, and in the middle of it, someone basically hijacked it to show off her custom widget that she made that she was very excited about, and it was beautiful. She was not a developer; she was doing it with ChatGPT, and using Jarek's custom widget, custom builder. So that was good to see. Okay.
Thank you guys, both Jarek and Paul, for joining us today and talking about custom widgets. Obviously, this is beyond my technical skill, but if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat. We can stay on for a couple more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I did share a link to Grist Widget, which is our GitHub page where you can find all of the code for our custom widgets. it's great to look at how those are built if you want to base off how you're building yours, or if you want to simply change one of ours. I know people often change the inbox or invoice custom widget. And then I will share a link to the community forum. So as you guys are working and building your own custom widgets, if you do have questions, post it to the community forum. Our developers do have access to the forum, so they can jump in and answer questions as you're building, and share what you're building so we can see it. We've seen quite a few. There's great stuff on the forum. We love to see what you guys are up to.
Thanks everybody for joining. This was fun.
Thank you guys, and thanks everyone. We will see you next month.
Thank
you
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you all.